looks positive. Like the cities and countries around the world are beginning to create laws that ban the production and the sale of plastics. So there's some positive note on that, but then it's very, very stubborn. The industry wants to keep on producing and making money. We can't seem to stem the demand, but stemming the demand is what we need to do. So what can we do? What have we been doing here at the Sierra Club? About 10 years ago, Sierra Club spearheaded a coalition. We called it BYOB, Bring Your Own Bags. And now we call it the Past Plastic Cincinnati Coalition, PPCC. And this is now made of 20 member organizations that come together. Our major goal is to affect cultural change here in Cincinnati, but through legislation, through changing the culture, changing our habits. So what we have been doing since 2012 is that we've been meeting every month to strategize about how we can do this, make this change happen. We've held public forums to educate folks about the harms of single-use plastic litter. And I think this is maybe the second or third time we've spoken before this forum on plastic. We've distributed reusable bags at farmers markets, at fairs and parades, and every event we have an opportunity to try to create the culture of using reusable bags again, or baskets to get your groceries in. And then finally, we lobbied City Council to issue an ordinance banning the sale of single-use plastic bags at grocery stores, restaurants, pharmacies, and city facilities. We want to push for that as well. So in 2020, Chris Sailbach was our champion, and we ended up passing an ordinance, a city ordinance, one of the first in Ohio. However, we were stopped in our tracks. The state of Ohio passed a preemptive law that preempted the ban of plastic bags in all municipalities, not plastic, but all containers, all these kind of plastic containers. We can't do it and also ask for a fee to do it, to try to give the grocery stores back some money for participating in the program. So we're not allowed to collect fees. That's the main thing. So what have we been doing since then? It was 2020 when it passed, and now we keep up the fight. We have to generate some new enthusiasm from our group and from community members to lobby City Council and the mayor to amend our 2020 ordinance to do a workaround, that is to create new language to get around the language of the state law. And we've spoken with Mika Owens, who is the chair of Climate, Environment, and Infrastructure Committee, and the mayor, and we're pushing for it. We're going to keep on doing it. So we could really use some help in doing this. It takes a community to make these things happen. Otherwise, it gets put on the back burner. So what can you do is join us in our effort. Of course, keep on using your reusable bags. Just use that and try to encourage everyone else to do it. Practice sustainable habits, recycle, reuse, refuse, and so on. And then maybe we can get a campaign up to write our city council members to amend the ban ordinance. We just have to put a big push on that to get a ban in Cincinnati. Okay, thank you, that's it.
You want to go ahead, Sally, then?
Sure.
Introduce yourself.
Any questions?
I have a question, Jeanne.
Okay.
I have a question. So people want to write to city council members or get a hold of them. What's the best way to encourage them to amend that ordinance?
Yeah, I think what we have to do is set up, get the council members to agree to have a community meeting with that council, with the Climate, Environment, and Infrastructure Committee, and bring more people on to push them to do this. Get Mika Owens, remind her that she agreed to help us with this. And then we could try to create maybe with her, create a petition or something to sign in on, or a way for people to write council members to pressure them to go ahead and move on with this? Do you have any other ideas how we could do that? Does anybody?
Does somebody have a question there or a comment? Barry, can anybody read the question?
Yeah, she said, I am new to Ohio. Does Ohio have a state law banning bans? And yes, it does.
Yeah, you want to repeat it so Jeanne can hear it?
Yeah.
Say that again?
Did you see the question in the chat was, I'm new to Ohio. Does Ohio have a state law banning bans? And
Yes,
I think the
that's
answer is yes. Because you just, yeah.
Yes, that's in effect. We thought that it had a clause that stopped it after a while, but apparently is in permanence right now.
Yeah, I'll add to that. So we passed our ordinance in March of 2020 against single-use plastic bags. And then in, I think, maybe July, the ordinance, the statewide ordinance that was a ban against banning auxiliary containers went into effect. And it was supposed to be sunsetted. Actually, it was January and it was supposed to sunset in a year. But then the following July, which would have been July of 2021, during the state budget process, they made that
Permanent.
auxiliary container thing permanent. So
Yeah. There is one ordinance, I think it was in Bexley, Ohio. They seem to have created an amendment that gets around that preemption law. So we could maybe use that as a model for what we want to do in Cincinnati.
I'd like to talk about these.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm holding in my hand?
What is that?
They call it the door store. If they
Yeah.
hung it on the door, I'd hate it less than what they do, which is throw it in the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the current version doesn't have a phone number or any information. It tells you not to do something that'll suffocate you. And it says you should keep it because it could vary by the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
But I did talk to one city council person about it, and a couple others, I've given them door store bags. Said, stick this in your pocket and remember to do something about it. But it seems to me that the least they can do is call it litter. Because it should at least be hanging from our door. Otherwise, why are they calling it door store?
Yeah.
But as far as the Mill Creek is concerned, the grocery bags are what we find. We don't usually find these because they're solid. So I would bet that MSD is finding them when they empty their strainers of stuff that goes into the stormwater.
Yeah.
They've got places that they do that.
They look like you know what they do, they sell away at the at dry cleaning stores. Also, that seemed like very big sheets of plastic. And
I would
don't know
say
what
it's
happens to those.
probably the same kind of plastic.
Yeah.
These come with paper ads that no one wants. And the reason I get so many of them is I'm picking up mine and I pick up for 3 more neighbors.
Yeah.
And then I recycle those and put these in my thing. And I have found a use for them. I'm not a real big fan of doing the toilet paper in the toilet thing because that has to come out as sludge. So when I'm on a cruise ship, I actually use the toilet paper to that to keep it out of the sludge.
Mhm.
And then I'm at home, I use those good old Kroger bags that blow down the street. I pick those up and bring them home too.
Good.
These plastic things are an aggravation to me. They're obviously an environmental waste.
Mhm.
And like I said, they go with the pack of papers. These things,
Hmm.
I was able to pull it out of my recycle bin right now.
Wow.
And they're very secretive about who they are. So I know the one lady that I yelled at and said, that's litter, did not throw it in my yard that time, but waited till I wasn't there to throw it in my yard.
You know what you could do, Gwen, is when we get a council meeting, bring those as, you know, something to show. We can show and tell and show the nature of what's going on and the kinds of plastic that's proliferating in our local environment.
Actually, I've talked to them one-on-one on this.
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, it would take more people bitching about something for anything to happen, and even then it won't.
Yeah.
I wonder if it might not be more effective to talk to the people who are actually advertising in those bags.
Yeah.
Because Kroger's one of them.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe you're right. I'll talk to the environmental guy from Kroger's. He's on my water sampling team. I'll see him in a week.
Yeah, let's keep in, communication with Kroger. I think that's vital. It's very hard though. Their sustainability department is very hard to reach.
You're talking about Aaron, right?
I don't know. I have other names.
Because he's the one that's in my water sample group.
Okay. So any other questions? Because maybe we can move on. We can maybe have some more questions at the end about this, but let's continue with the program. Pinky, that's good.
Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay. Okay, hi, I'm Sally Dannemiller, and I'm the vice chair of the Conservation Committee with Marie. And I'm also have been involved in a program looking at solid waste. And I can tell you how I got involved was there was one person, I don't even know who the person was, who wrote a letter to Sierra Club and said, there's land out in Whitewater Township that Rumpke wants to expand as a dump. It had originally been a Monsanto dump from their plant in Addison. So we don't really know what's in that dump because we don't have any hard evidence of what's there. And I don't think people are wanting to tell us what's actually on that land. But at any rate, this one person wrote, I was interested, and I went to a meeting out there at Whitewater Township. And from there, a lot of people, Sierra Club and other groups got involved, and we named ourselves the Solid Waste Caucus. And we're actually really excited about reducing solid waste. This is like, we're excited. So to get to zero waste, all of us have to reduce what we put at the curb and what we send to the landfill. But on the flip side of that, we have to make sure that the entities that are in charge of landfills, namely the Hamilton County Solid Waste Policy Committee and the Hamilton County Commissioners, have a handle on what's going to happen in the future for reducing waste. And we have to do that because the waste that's going to our landfills is toxic. All those microwave popcorn bags that are lined with PFAS, and your dental floss that has PFAS on it, and all sorts of other products. That's just one contaminant. So at any rate, we need to protect our air, land, and water, and we're going to do this by working with the policy committee and the commissioners. And what we've done so far, well, I'll tell you who the caucus is. It's Sierra Club, it's the League of Women Voters, it's Oxbow Inc. out there on the Great Miami, and folks that have named themselves Ditch the Dump, referring to the Bond Road landfill, and others. So it's a large group of people, and we actually meet weekly. That's how excited we are about reducing waste. So at any rate, what we've done is we got a set of rules instituted for the Hamilton County Solid Waste District. And that's pretty amazing. There are 55 solid waste districts in Ohio. And of those 55 districts, we're like the 22nd district that has rules. The other ones don't have rules. So it helps to have rules because then you can create more layers of control, more than the Ohio EPA. And the Ohio EPA doesn't do it all. I can tell you that right now. So we have rules. The unfortunate side of that is that the minute the rules were instituted, voted on by the Hamilton County Commissioners and approved, Rumpke filed a lawsuit against the Hamilton County Commissioners. So right now that there's been an injunction and there's negotiations, I guess. So right now we're also kind of in limbo with those rules, which is not good. The other half of rules is the Hamilton County Solid Waste District has a 5-year plan. And so every 5 years, they go through this process of making new rules. That's what we're working on right now. And the Solid Waste Policy Committee did submit the rules, or will be submitting the rules by the August 7th deadline, but they plan to do some revisions to those rules. They had a good while to come up with the rules, but somehow they didn't get them all pulled together in time, which is usually the case with people that have a lot of work to do. But some of those things are pretty important, some of those revisions. And I would say if there's a takeaway from this part of the talk, is the Hamilton County Solid Waste Policy Committee and the commissioners should hear from all of us about these revisions, because they're quite important. Like, one is a fee structure that will support more programs like household hazardous waste, like universal trash collection, like universal recycling. All of these things are really important and need to be part of the plan. So if anybody's interested in writing a letter like that, I would say contact Marie or contact myself, and we can get you the information on what to write and who to direct it to. Also, the Solid Waste Policy Committee meets right, like 2 blocks away from here at the Taft Road, Hamilton County building. And those meetings are open to the public via live or Zoom. And so you can go and you can sign up and you can get your 3 minutes in. So I would encourage you to be involved with that. The other thing that we are working on, besides getting universal trash collection and universal recycling, is we also need universal organic collection. And a lot of people coin it compost, but that's a confusing term, because people say, well, I live in an apartment building, how am I going to compost? I can't do that, or I tried that and the raccoons come or something. But actually, there are a lot of places in the country that do composting, and it's a 3-bin system. You have your trash, you have your recycling bin, and you have your composting bin. And that's what we need to get to. And that composting is better named organics. And that would be anything that you would compost, but also yard waste, because that's also organic. So interesting fact, 28% of what goes into our landfills in Hamilton County, 28% is organics. That's a huge amount. If we could divert that, that would be amazing. That's almost a third. And then if you think about the amount of recycling that's not happening, you're really getting far down the road to zero waste right there. So let's see, what else can I tell you? How we're trying to do all this universal collection is through a process of universal access. So we want to require every township, every entity within the county, within the solid waste district, to have required collection. And that will also not only put everything under one umbrella, but it'll prevent illegal dumping, which is a huge source of pollution and environmental detriments. So anyway, and then the last fact that I'm going to leave you with is that the dump in Colleen, otherwise known as the landfill, only has 23 years left on it. And we've been trying to discover the years because we keep getting different answers, but in the current 5-year plan, it does quote 23 years. So that's it. That's not a lot of time. So at any rate, anybody interested in joining us in this battle, I will call it, please let us know, or if you just want to write a letter or just show up to a meeting, also please let us know. Carol.
When are your meetings? When and where?
Well, we meet via Zoom.
Oh, yeah.
You're talking about the solid waste caucus. We meet via Zoom on Tuesdays at noon. And it's every Tuesday. And then the solid waste policy committee meets periodically, and you really just have to look up the schedule. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I was gonna say it's the 17th. The next policy committee meeting is
The next one is August 17th, and I believe it's at 1. So they have a regular schedule, but then they have scheduled special meetings to get all this work done. Rich.
Do you know if Hamilton County is its own waste district, or does it include other parts of other counties or other?
No, our county happens to also coincide with our waste district. So if you heard my figure that there are 55 solid waste districts,
yeah,
but Ohio has 88 counties.
Right.
So obviously some counties are combined. Some counties have no landfill. Like for instance, Warren, Butler, and other surrounding counties have no landfills. So all of their trash comes into our county.
Oh, okay, that's what I wanted to know. Yeah.
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 And I would tell you another figure, which is 56% of the trash at the Colerain dump is coming from outside our county. That's a huge amount too. And the fee structure that I mentioned before that needs to be added to our 5-year plan has to address this, because, not only, do we have an in-district cost, but there is an out-of-district cost, and then there's an out-of-state cost. And so if those things are raised, then we can cover these programs to help get to zero waste. So the fee structure has to be added on, or we're not going to be able to go forward, really. So any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you.
You want to introduce Colleen?
We wanted to.
Okay, all right, okay.
Marie, I have a question. We have maybe more people online that are in the room, and we just wonder if the speaker could also speak to the screen.
Yep. Okay, so they should speak to the screen as opposed to.
Well, a little bit so that we can see your face when you're speaking.
Okay, well, I was told if we stood here, we would be seen. Is that correct?
Yeah, I can see you.
Yourself up on the
Okay.
board, yeah.
Oh, all right, yeah. All right, I have the great honor of talking to a woman who's done a great deal for our community in diverting all kinds of things that most of us thought were not recyclable and not reusable, et cetera, et cetera. And her name is Colleen McSwiggin, and she's here because she runs the recycling.
Cincinnati Recycling and Reuse Club.
Cincinnati Recycling.
It's a mouthful.
So yeah, Colleen McSwiggin is going to tell you all about her efforts.
Yeah, and first I just have to say too that it's not just me. We actually have 15 board members, an associate director, 5 staff members now. I could not do this by myself because it's just too much to do. I'm actually going to pull up something on my screen here, and hopefully it will start.
Share that with Zoom
Yeah, that's
too.
what I'm going to try to. Actually, I'm trying to think, how can I do? I have to back out and share with Zoom first. Okay,
Thank you.
Great.
okay, can you all see that? There we go. Okay, so I just wanted specifically to talk, because I was given kind of vague details from Kathy Kugler, but I just wanted to talk specifically about the plastic that we can take at the recycling hub. Obviously, you all probably know reduce, reuse, recycle. They're in that order for a reason. You want to reduce things up front so that you don't have to bring stuff to us at the recycling hub. But sometimes that's just impossible, just the way that the world is these days, unfortunately. So we try to provide an outlet for things that can be recycled, but that cannot go into your just curbside bins. We do this by partnering with a bunch of different organizations. A lot of things go for reuse. A lot of those specifically go to other nonprofits, but then we also have a plastics recycler that we work with in Indiana that can take the things that Rumpke cannot take just because they are harder to recycle. So we get a lot of questions specifically about what Rumpke can't take because they themselves are not clear on their website. We're not sure if they're doing this on purpose or not. We think part of it is they're trying to make things simple. But the problem with this question or with this issue is that it is not simple. Their robots can handle very specific things. The people that work on their lines can handle very specific things. And they are not, they want to try not to have to parse things down into, you know, individual types of things. But the problem is that their lines and the robots that they have do that down to individual things. So they have very specific things that they can take, but then we can take a lot of the things that they cannot take. So for instance, they can now take the number 1 and number 5 cups. We say the number specifically because they cannot take styrofoam cups. That's a number 6 plastic. They cannot take number 6 cups. So that is like your solo cups, things like that. They can take the paper cups now. So again, not plastic, but something that they can now take, but you cannot send those with the lids. We can take all of the other caps and lids that you might have from water bottles and peanut butter jars and Cool Whip tubs and all of that kind of stuff as well. They can't take the straws. We can take the straws. They can take the tubs, and they're very, let's say, cagey on their website as to what counts as a tub. And we specifically had to take examples when we went to go tour the materials recycling or recovery facility to say, do you take this? Do you take this? So they can take the tubs for dairy products. That's the one you guys are probably familiar with. So for Cool Whip bowls and butter and sour cream and things like that. They can take the Jell-O and gelatin cups. They can take the applesauce and fruit cups. They can take the macaroni and cheese cups that are kind of like the single serving cups, but you actually have to take there's kind of a number 6 wrap around those that you have to take off because that's like 6. They can't take that. We can take that. They can take the yogurt cups, but again, you have to take the wrappers off if they come with the yogurt, you know, wrap around them. The one thing we're not real clear on is they say they will take all yogurt cups, but about half of the yogurt cups that we get are number 6. So we're like, so what is it? So that's a question that's kind of gone back and forth, and we've actually called their customer service and we've gotten the answer, no, we can't take those. And then we've had somebody else call and they say, yes, we can take those. So it's like, what is it? So that's kind of the one area we're still trying to sort out. They can take the coffee tubs that are kind of the bigger tubs and they almost have like a little handle on them. They can take the laundry detergent tubs. So Tide Pods and there's kind of a rounder Tide one and I can't remember what that one's for. And then they can take the Lysol and Clorox white cylinders. So those are the ones that are, you know, they say they take the stuff where it's the top is smaller than the bottom, but that's still something that fits into things that they can take. They can take the bottles and jugs. These are the ones that they've always taken. So the water and juice bottles, they can take white prescription and OTC bottles if they're bigger than 3 inches. And this was, again, a clarification we had to get from them. If it's smaller than 3 inches, it will go through their machinery and then just basically contaminate the glass that they take for recycling. So if it's bigger than 3 inches, it can go to them. If it's smaller, it comes to us. And then they can take the shampoo, conditioner, contact solution bottles, all of those screw cap bottles that you're used to giving to them, and then the milk jugs that you're used to giving to them. And then as far as the other plastics that we can take, this is everything that I could think of off the top of my head today. So pretty much if it's plastic and it cannot go to Rumpke, it probably comes to us. It's just a matter of where does it have to be sorted when you bring it to us. So the clamshells, we can take those. A lot of the baked goods are in number 6 ones. We cannot take number 1 plastics. So that is the biggest thing that we get questions on. The company that we had been sending our plastics to found that number 1s do not work for their recycling process. I did find out today that Rumpke is planning by 2024, they will be able to take number 1 thermoforms. I don't know any more details on that. Like, will they have to not have labels? or, you know, what sort of condition they have to be in. But at least they're looking at something down the line. But for right now, we can take at least the number 6 clamshells. We can take the takeout containers. So that's the ones where it's kind of a separate bottom from a top. We get a lot of those from like LaRosa's and Skyline and things like that. We can take the plastic netting that's on, you know, oranges and onions and all of that kind of stuff. You do not need to take any of the metal or kind of the, I call it film. It's more like a plastic label that's sort of sewn onto it. You don't have to take that off, just bring it to us as is. We can take plastic strapping. We can take plastic gift cards and credit cards. But the one thing for this is we get a lot of them that are actually paper. And the way to test that is if you can bend them and you can see that that's just, you know, cardboard, that can just go in your regular Rumpke recycling. That actually saves us a little bit because we have to send those to TerraCycle and we have to have somebody sort through all of those and literally test every single card to say, okay, is this paper? Is this plastic? So if you can do that all at home, that saves us a little bit of time with our volunteers. We can take plastic hangers, and that's in any condition. If they are still usable plastic hangers, we actually try to have them available for reuse. And if they are something where it's maybe a plastic and metal hanger together that we can tell came from Target or for Kohl's or whoever, we take it back to them. And then they reuse them there. We can take the plastic utensils and we separate those by wrapped and unwrapped. Anything that is wrapped, we actually give to about 4 different food pantries. And then anything that is unwrapped already, we can send those to just the recycler that we send our other plastics to. Disposable razors, that's another thing that we send to TerraCycle for recycling. Completely empty and washed tubes. So this is lotion, sunscreen, face wash, anything that you can kind of think a tube, you know, where it's got a cap that maybe is a flip cap or just a screw cap, but is not something that could go in Rumpke. We ask that those have to be completely clean though, and the best way to kind of take care of that is to cut them in the middle and wash them out inside. We actually recommend that for when you're bringing toothpaste tubes to us as well, and you can kind of get another couple scoops out of there on either side as well. We can take all bags. We do ask if you go to Kroger or Target to take your bags there for recycling, try to take it there instead, because that's that much less that we have to do. But anything that can't go to store drop off, we can take. So I think Target has, it's like a soap refill that's kind of in a puffy plastic bag kind of thing. It's got a little spout on the end. We can take that. We can take any chip bags that have the foil in them. We can take any other kind of, like a lot of times bag apples will come in kind of a little bag with a handle on it, for lack of a better word. Yeah, and it's like a number 5 plastic, so we can take all of that at the hub. We can take all styrofoam, so that's in any kind of form. So we can take sheets that are sort of like a number 2 or number 4 plastic. We can take the chunks that are the white, you know, pieces that might come with furniture or TVs and all that kind of stuff. And then we can take the packing peanuts as well. We do ask that if you have compostable, like starch peanuts, to just deal with that at home. You can run those under hot water and then they'll dissolve in your sink. Sometimes it does take a bit, but they will disintegrate. But any of the actual styrofoam peanuts you can bring to us. Just make sure that that's in a separate bag so that it doesn't go kind of all over with the rest of the styrofoam. We can take the nozzles and tips from non-hazardous aerosol cans. So aerosol cans, that is something that can go to Rumpke if it's not hazardous. So if it's like spray paint or something, that has to go with household hazardous waste. But if it's canola oil or trying to think of something else.
Hairspray?
Hairspray is kind of in between, but it's probably okay to go to Rumpke because it's probably more alcohol based than some of the other paints would be. But you have to take the tips off of that before you send those to Rumpke. Bring the tips to us. We can take all kinds of plastic toys, you know, action figures, Happy Meal toys, which are like the bane of my existence. But any of that kind of stuff can come to us. And then we can take prescription bottles. See if I can minimize this so you guys can see the other side. Any of the like orange, blue, and green. Usually the blue and green, I think, are for pet meds. And then the orange ones can come to us. We actually send anything that we can get the label off of. One of our volunteers takes all of those clean ones home, and then she actually washes them and brings them back. And then we send those to Matthew 25 Ministries to be reused. Anything we can't get the label off of just gets shredded and then goes with the regular plastic to the plastic recycler. The white prescription and OTC bottles less than 3 inches, I kind of talked about that a minute ago. And again, that's just because the smaller size, they will fall through Rumpke's equipment. So you just have to bring that to us. We can take X-ray films. This is another one that kind of surprises people. We actually do get a little bit of money for those because the actual X-ray films have silver on them. That's kind of one of the ways that you can see the X-ray is there's a thin film of silver on them. So we can get money from that when the silver is recovered. We can take phone cases and then pop sockets, which are like the little, I don't even know what you call them. The little things that pop off of the back of phones for people to hold. And I'm just like, can't you just hold your phone? But some people need those apparently. So we can take those, and then we can take electronic media. So that's VHS, cassette, 8-track tapes, CDs, DVDs, floppy disks, and then all of the cases for all of those. We do charge a fee for those though, because we do send those to a company called Green Disc outside of Dayton, and we are charged fees for that. So we have to charge for that. We can take water pitchers that are Brita. We actually send those specifically to TerraCycle because we get some money for that. But then any other sort of, Rubbermaid or, what's the Tupperware pitchers? We had somebody bring in pitchers that had to have been from the 1970s because I'm like, my mom had those exact things and kind of like that olive green, and the handle broke off 50 years later. We can take that and recycle it. We can take the plastic deodorant containers, just try to get as much deodorant out as you can. That goes to TerraCycle. And then the toothbrushes, any plastic toothbrushes we can have, that again goes to TerraCycle. The floss containers, if they're empty, we can take those. We can take the dried pens and markers, those go to TerraCycle as well. And same for empty glue sticks. The bread bag tabs, so those are the little kind of rectangular ones with a little cutout that, so kind of like the alternative to a twist tie. We can take those because if you try to put those just in Rumpke again, they'll fall through all their machinery, but we can give it to them in to the recycler in just a big fiber drum, so they can get a whole bunch at one time, dump it right in for recycling. The pack techs, so these are hard plastic 6-pack rings, so they'll kind of, I'm trying to think of how we would, so it's 6 solid kind of circles all together that will fit on top of a 6-pack. We can take those, and those actually go for just to be reused, because apparently the pack tech company is somewhere, I don't know if it's actually in Cincinnati or if it's in like Middletown, but it's close. So convenient for us. And then the flexible film 6-pack rings, these are the ones that hit, people have always said, you have to cut those out so they don't end up strangling turtles and things like that. If you bring them to us, we will make sure that they get to be recycled. The pool rings for milk cartons, these are the ones where if you've got an actual like cardboard carton and it's kind of got a little spout off of it, there's that little plastic pool ring inside of it. We can take that. And then plant pots, we actually have a lot of those available for reuse for people to take if they're, starting plants or whatever. And if we have too many of those, we can still send those for recycling. And then we can take PVC piping as long as it doesn't have any sort of like epoxy joints. You would have to cut those parts out, but any of just the PVC piping parts, we can take those and send those to a company that turns that into the composite decking. So like Trex decking, but not the Trex brand name. So we can kind of take everything else. We are a stopgap though. We eventually would love to be put out of business because we want, plastic packaging makers to realize, hey, there's other more sustainable alternatives. We want other companies kind of stepping up and saying, hey, there's ways to just reduce, the way that they do business. Some companies are getting a little bit better. We have seen in the last probably 2 months that Kroger, that used to have a lot of the clamshells for tomatoes and blueberries, they're now having some that are in, it's like 98% cardboard and then just like a little, even like cardboard on top and then kind of a little window, for lack of a better word, that's still plastic on top. That's an immense reduction in the plastic that they had been using. We are not sure though, are we finding that here because we're like a test market? Because we do worry that people will say, well, I can't see the tomatoes when I buy them, or I can't see the blueberries, or they're, are they moldy when I get them? So they kind of have to walk a very thin line, I guess, between the packaging and then what will consumers actually buy. So the more that you can support those efforts as you see them, the better they will get the word that, hey, people are okay with still buying things and they don't have to see everything, you know, and still get food that they're okay with.
Colleen?
Yeah.
We had a couple of questions
Yep.
in the chat.
Yep.
Um,
Oh yeah, I can't see there's a mic.
Who takes the black plastic containers?
So that would have to come to me or to the hub, and those will either be sent to our recycler up in Indiana, or like for plant pots and things like that. Again, we'll have those available for reuse. And that reminds me too. So we have a reuse or a takeaway day, we should say, on Saturday. So this Saturday from 10 to 2 at the hub, you can come and quote unquote shop. We say that in quotes because you don't have to pay anything. You just come and take sort of whatever you want. So we have packing materials, we have hangers, we've got the plant pots, we've got all kinds of design samples. So one of our programs is called Zero Landfill Cincinnati, that was started originally in 2008. And we have carpet squares and tile squares and wallpaper books and fabric swatches and all of that kind of stuff. And if you are a creative person and you have something that you can do with it, just come and take it. We've had, when Carrie, who's the associate director, was running the program before it was part of the hub, she said there was a veterinarian who came down from Springboro. He took every bit of tile that they had, and it was something like 5.5 tons of tile. And he tiled his entire veterinary practice with the tile that he picked up for free. And it was all totally mismatched, but because it was all mismatched, it looked okay, because it looked like it was kind of done on purpose. We've had people from DAP at UC take fabric swatches. There was a student who made just a fantastic quilted jacket of all of the kind of fake leather swatches she could get her hands on. And if you had to actually buy that somewhere, it would be easily $250. We had somebody who took all of the, for lack of a better word, interesting fabric swatches. So corduroy and brocades, and I can't even remember all what else. And she made these fantastic stuffed animals like bears and bunny rabbits and things like that. And it was just fantastic. And it's always amazing to see what people come up with, you know, and they say, hey, I could totally turn that into whatever. So so the takeaway day is this Saturday. Were there other
Another
questions?
one was
Yep.
the vegetable or fruit plastic clamshells.
That's number one, clamshells. Nobody will take those. Do not put those in your rumpke bin. Because that just is one other thing that they've got to take out and will end up in the landfill. Yeah, nobody will take those. We have tried a couple different places. We found one place in California that can take them, and we could send it to them, but we have to bail the plastic and we have to send it a trailer at a time. And we do not have anybody to do that. We've actually gotten $10,000 toward that, and we think we're going to need 85 to basically hire somebody, potentially buy another baler, and have the storage space to do that. I literally just submitted a grant yesterday to try to get another 25,000 toward that. So we'll see if we make any progress on that. And then we've got one other proposal that's kind of out there that we're hoping between everything we might cobble enough together. But right now, nobody here can take number ones. And actually that one place in California is literally the only place that we found that will take post-consumer thermoforms.
Colleen, that is getting more and more urgent. There's more and
Yeah.
more of it with this
Yeah.
lettuce and all the fruit.
Yep.
It's getting.
Well, and
really
when we collected it, that was half of what we got was number one plastics.
Yeah.
And we would fill easily 5 Gaylords. So a Gaylord is a big box that sits on a pallet. So it's about 4x4 by I think 3 feet high. And we would fill 5 of those in the 10 hours we were open every week. Compared to, you know, the number 5s, we usually fill maybe 2 of those Gaylords. The number 6 is maybe 1, and then all the other smaller ones are just, you know, small bins. So we got more number 1s than all of the other plastics we have combined. Yeah.
Maybe you could tell us what will people have, well, what will happen when they get there? What do they have to do?
Oh yeah. So
I think this,
yeah.
hopefully people are worrying about that because
Yeah. So when you come to the hub, we actually have volunteers to help. It helps if you can kind of sort things ahead of time. Somebody can maybe mute some of them. Like somebody was stuck in our room. So if somebody comes to the hub, the more that they can sort ahead of time, the better off it is. But we have volunteers there, and you just kind of come into the hub. People bring things in boxes, people bring things in bags, kind of just do one at a time. We say that's kind of the best way to not be overwhelmed. So bring one bag in, We'll go through it. We'll help you get it to where it's gotta go. Go get another bag. And eventually it will all be done. And I cannot tell you how many people who have come and they are just like, oh my gosh, you take this. Oh my gosh, you take this. And they're just amazed because we literally try to take everything that we can with the space that we have, with the volunteers that we have, and with all of the resources where we know we can go with things. There are some things that we can't take just because of space, like we could never handle furniture. We would be full in half an hour. And we can't take textiles because that again is another avalanche of things that need to be taken care of, but not by us because there's other outlets for that.
Colleen, can you tell us about your event on August? I think it's 11, is it 8th or when is that?
Oh, on the 6th on Saturday. Yeah. So that's something where if you just come, again, we open at 10 to 2. And if you just kind of wait outside there, we will let you in. I think we're letting groups of 7 at a time go up to shop, but we can have up to, I think it's 68 people at a time upstairs. We're kind of instituting our COVID rules again, and just kind of come and take whatever you want. Look around. It just has to be weighed before it goes out so that we can keep track of what we've kept out of the landfill.
Great treasures, I saw.
Yep.
I was going to mention 2 places to recycle things. One, the public library likes to take CDs,
Yeah.
DVDs,
Yeah.
VCR tapes.
Mhm.
So that's a good
Yeah.
start for reuse. And then you said you don't take textiles, but there's a place downtown, and I don't know what it's called. It might be called Indigo something.
Oh, Indigo Hippo will take some
Yeah.
like art supply kind of stuff.
Yeah, so they take art supplies, like yarn
Yeah.
or fabrics or markers, paint, whatever. And then I was at my friend's house and she had boxes of her kids' trophies
Mhm.
and they took those.
Yeah.
Because people can do stuff with
Yeah.
that.
Actually, I just literally dropped off 5 boxes of trophies in Madison, Wisconsin on our way back from Oshkosh from a air show. Because they will take them, they'll clean them up, they'll take the little plates off, with the engraving to say what the trophy was for originally, and then they will donate that to Special Olympics and other nonprofits for their use. Yeah.
Karen,
Yeah.
had a question, I think. I'm not familiar with the hub is.
Oh, yeah, so we're in Lower Price Hill, so if you are going I-75 south, you get off at the Freeman Avenue exit and make a right off of the exit and you're on Guest Street. And just follow that down about a mile, and then you'll see a big building that says mattresses on the side. And that's the building we're in, but you have to come around from the back on Woodrow Street. So and that's another thing that's confusing. Our address is officially 911 Evans, but you cannot get into the building from Evans Street. It's like, okay, could we change this? But we hope that we're not going to be there long enough to have to fight that battle, and we'll get to a permanent place. So just kind of come around to the back of the building, and it's a gated lot. And the gates will just be open. And when you kind of get to the lot, you head to the right and you'll see our signage. And usually if you're coming when we're open, you'll see a bunch of other cars over there that are dropping stuff off. So.
And so basically you just open Thursday and Saturday.
Just
right?
Thursday and Saturday, because we're almost entirely volunteers. Yeah.
Are there any questions from people out there?
Yeah, were there other questions online too, Barry?
Did you mention styrofoam?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes, in any form, just have it be relatively clean, dry. And then again, it's just a matter of where is it gonna go when you get it to us, because we've got 3 different places. Any of the big white chunks of styrofoam goes to a company in Mason called Eco Development. They take it and they send it to Owens Corning to be turned into insulation for houses. Any of the sheet kind of pieces of styrofoam, that's really a number 2 or number 4 plastic, so that's not true styrofoam. That goes to be recycled with the other number 2s and 4s. And then anything that is like food styrofoam will go again to the chemical recycler, because there's really no other way to deal with those, unfortunately.
Are there any, yeah, Carol?
You still taking Zoom questions? I didn't want to interrupt anybody.
Nobody's
Yeah, I think-
saying anything.
I think we're
on
good.
Zoom.
We got one more.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was the dry cleaner plastic.
Yeah, so those can actually go to Kroger. That's a number 2 or number 4 plastic. So they can be store drop off, but if you want to bring them to us, we will take them if it's not convenient for you to take them to Kroger.
Well, what about a jar, it's a plastic jar that has a metal container?
These are kind of hard. Yeah, so we've had a lot of people that try to bring, they're plastic and they've got like a little metal ring around the top. A lot of those are for like tennis balls and things like that.
Mhm.
Those are problematic for two things. First of all, because they're mixed materials. At one point, if you could cut the metal ring off, we could take the metal ring. The bottom is a number one plastic. So again, you go back to it's a number one, nobody's taking that.
I got a peanut butter jar.
Mhm.
It's plastic
Yeah,
with a metal lid.
Hmm.
Now.
well, then if you take the metal lid off, the metal lid could go to Rumpke Recycling. You could also bring it to us, but again, if you can take it to Rumpke, take it to Rumpke. And then the jar itself, because that's a screw cap jar, that can still go to Rumpke.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just kind of get it as clean as you can.
Oh, yeah.
But because it's a screw cap,
You want
plastic jar, they
you
can
want the
take it.
cap off or on?
That will be off for that. Because if it's plastic and plastic together, it's okay. If it's plastic and metal, you have to have those separate.
Okay, are there any other questions here or there? Anybody on Zoom that has a question?
And then also I've got, if you want to come volunteer, we can always use help. We can always use donations and then just spread the word about what we're doing. And then I've got all of my contact information here too. And I will actually send these probably to Kathy, but
Okay.
if you guys were copied on the emails, I'll send them to you guys too. And then you can send this to whoever
Okay,
wants to
great.
see it. Yep.
Colleen, do you have enough volunteers?
Like for this weekend?
Yeah, for any
Is-
time. Yeah.
We can always use more volunteers. We actually have had very few volunteer hours recently because it's been so hot. One thing I should note, if you want to volunteer, we do not have air conditioning, so it gets really, really warm. So we had to actually cancel some volunteer hours, which is why we were closed for the 2 weeks, because we needed to get caught up just on getting things kind of in order, especially for the takeaway day. But we can always use volunteers. We're actually going to be probably start having more takeaway things where people can do more volunteer things at home, sort of like the woman who does all of the cleaning of the plastic prescription bottles. We have some of the starch packing peanuts that we were asking people to take home for them to dissolve at home. We have caps and lids that have to be gone through so that we can send those to be turned into benches. So like the little, they're kind of like a cardboard liner with a little bit of plastic on them. Those all need to be taken out. We have to make sure we've got the right lids. We have to make sure there's not, ketchup on them and all things like that if it's a ketchup lid. So we're trying to get more things for people to take and volunteer at home as well. So that just helps us, but less that we've got to manage hands-on there at the hub.
Colleen, do you work with schools and art departments?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And we've had a lot of schools come in for tours, and then we've also gone to schools for different presentations too.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Thank you.
Carol had one more question.
Yeah, no, I forgot what it was.
If it comes back to you, let me
Yeah,
know.
okay.
All right, well,
Okay.
thank you. Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Colleen. Colleen's making a real dent in,
We're trying.
a real dent in the trash, not trash, but just a real dent in things that she's keeping on the landfill. We have one more little thing that we want to talk about today. As I don't know how many people know, Jeanne and I are going to kind of tag team this, right, Jeanne?
Yeah, I can talk about it.
There is a compost. Well, let me let Jeanne has the word, but there's a Findlay Market compost.
It's called it's Findlay Market Residential Composting Program, actually, and I kind of went down there and researched it. It's not, at first I just learned from people who are vendors in the market that it's an group thing, that they just put their compost in a place in a bucket and then they take it away. But then I went to the information place and I found that in fact it's a residential composting system. So you can subscribe to it. They give you a 5-gallon bucket, so you can put your food waste in there as part of their new Greening the Market sustainability program. It costs about $10 a month, $55 for a 6-month commitment to being part of this program. And you can drop it off at any time when the market's open during the market hours. They don't want any meat or dairy food waste, just plant material. And it's because they have it's not an industrial composting system. It's very commercial, and they have just a way of cutting up the stuff and turning it into compost that they can put on land that's being cultivated or in parks. And so they create a product that they can spread around. But main thing is they keep it out of the landfill. And as Sally was saying, that's major, to keep that compost out of the landfill. I think the city was trying to get a digester so that they could turn the compost into electricity, but that is extremely expensive, millions of dollars. So this is not that system, but it's a way, if you don't if you live in an apartment or a house where you don't do composting yourself, to take it to Findlay Market, make it part of your daily trip to the Findlay Market or your weekly trip to the Findlay Market.
You know, Jean, are there spots available in the program?
Yeah, you can subscribe as a resident anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah, and just come in but you have to pay some money so that you can pay for the processing of that waste. They got enough money. They got 2 grants to expand the program, and they got it from the Ohio EPA recycling, and also from Hamilton County Waste Reduction. It's an innovation grant that they got to help with this program. And the machine, they say, it just grinds it up. It just keeps the organic material out of the landfill and distributes the compost throughout the landscape into schools and parks and farms and so on. And so they have a way of doing that. That takes some money, so they really need some help if you were going to do that and be part of the program.
Right. I actually signed up online, but I'm not sure that I'm part of the program yet.
You can go on to their website, that's findlaymarket.org, and sign up there. And then you go and pick up your bucket.
Right. Carol, did you have a question?
Yeah, I did. I thought of the question I was going to ask. It was hand lotion bottles and dish detergent bottles.
Yeah, those are screw cap bottles, so those can
But
still
they
get
have,
funky.
but they have to be
Clean.
They have to be totally.
As clean as you can get them. They don't have to be spotless, but the more that you can get out.
Because
the less
sometimes
it'll-
it's hard to get the cap off.
Yeah.
So
Well, especially with the dish detergent, there are times that it's like, I think I use more water than.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so a lot of times for dish detergent specifically, I'll take the cap off, put the water in, dump that into the sink for the actual dishes I have to do, and then eventually after about 5 or 6 times, then everything's actually gone from the bottom. But
All right. Well,
Yeah.
we've given you a lot of great ideas. What, Jean?
I just wanted to say one more thing about past plastic that I forgot to say.
Uh-oh.
Is that okay? I mean, because we have some goals in mind, and these are takeaways that people can maybe be interested in joining us on these goals. So our primary goal, of course, is to get that ban amended. So it's I guess it's a certain part that says to eliminate the nickel minimum fee charge to food service and restaurant establishments. All we have to do is take that out. That's the only thing we have to amend on it. So it seems like a small thing that we should be able to do very soon. And I think if we have a little pressure, we can make it happen. But we have a few secondary goals that I meant to mention. Once we have this ordinance passed, we also want to start working on other single-use plastic packaging and try to get an ordinance against that too, and like straws and so on, and any kind of packaging. And we also want to try to prohibit the use of single-use plastic containers and straws in any city, Cincinnati-owned establishments like the art museum and the zoo, and I guess the zoo takes care of its own, but there are other.
The zoo already does not have straws or lids.
Right, yeah. Oh, it's a music hall. The city owns music hall.
Yeah.
Music hall, yeah. The other thing we've been doing is we created a roadmap for what we did over these 10 years and how we were able to get people to participate in strategizing and so on. So we created this roadmap, and we're trying to share it with other cities throughout Ohio, and also work with the Ohio Sierra Club on their strategies as well. So we want to make it statewide. The other thing, final thing we're doing is trying to work with Kroger, and that's really a difficult task, but we want them to pass store policies, such as prohibiting double bagging. Everybody double bags even for one item. It's just crazy. And then offer a choice right at the counter do you want a bag or not? Or do you want paper? Do you want plastic? And maybe have then maybe there's some people say that we should, with these containers, these #1 containers, which are terrible, to just come with a bag and empty your produce in your bag, get it weighed and get it priced, and then just give them that plastic bag that plastic container, that clamshell, and it might just get the message to the store that these are not wanted by consumers. So that's maybe one strategy we can use. We also want to have a Kroger maybe post some educational signs just to inform them about the health impacts of single-use plastic. I don't think people know those things. And then we have a goal of trying to eliminate single-use plastic bags in Hamilton County by the end of 2023. And then, of course, promote wider distributions of reusable bags. And we have lots of ways of doing that. Marie, you've been working on that really hard, making plastic bags, no, reusable bags out of t-shirts. So that's been a project as well.
So we've given you a whole bunch of great ideas. Now, if everyone takes one of our takeaways here, we'll definitely cut down on the waste, and hopefully at one point we will get to zero waste. As Sally said, 23 years is not very long for a landfill for the entire county. So we encourage you to try one or all of these things that we've talked to you about. And Barry has a question.
Just wanted to throw in, we had a comment in the chat about composting, that there's a compost service at Montgomery Farmers Market for somewhere $5 to $10 a month, similar to the one that
There's also one at Hyde Park Farmers Market and Loveland Farmers Market too, that I know of.
All right. Any final questions here from our people there or there? Thanks very much for coming. We hope that we've given you something to think about, something that you can easily do. It's a change of habits, and as Jeanne said, the plastic is very convenient, but it's destroying us and our planet. Thank you very much.